Hi everybody, Chris and Tanya with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal in Southeast Florida. Today we are doing some scouting. We have been passing by this storage unit for the last week because it's local to us, and there is a big pile of trash out front of the dumpster that is very easily seen from the street. And it's a pretty good sized pile, like someone just dumped off like a full U-Haul worth of trash there. And I actually know one of the managers here, but I haven't seen them in a couple of years at least. So we're gonna go in and say, hey, if you guys aren't working with a junk removal company yet, we saw you have a big pile of stuff that looks like someone just tossed out in front of your dumpster. If we can leave our cards behind, and just see what they say, that's all. But yeah, we've been trying to like stop here, but every time we pass by, we have the trailer with us, and this is like you can't exit unless you go through the storage unit and not the other side. So with my trailer, I'd be kind of stuck. And I just dropped it off and I was like, you know what, screw it, we're gonna go stop by. Because worst case is we drive by one day and see a different company doing it, and I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot because I was like, you know, maybe that could have been us. But a couple years ago, I did talk to the district manager for this facility, and he said, yeah, we can set you up as a vendor. $12 a cubic yard is what he told me. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be debris, it could be trash, it could be furniture, doesn't matter. And back then, like, I heard that number because I was still kind of new where I was using U-Hauls. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cheap, until I did the math. And to use like a 12 cubic yard trailer, for example, that's $144 for a full load with a net 30 to 90 day pay period for, yeah, like, luckily our disposal fees are pretty cheap here. Like at most, let's just say that I took a ton, it would be around a $40 to $50 disposal fee. So after that, you're only making 80, 90 bucks, and that's including your time for a full load, which let's just say is 2 hours, because this could be any unit in the building. It could be a unit way in the back, and it could be stuff you have to disassemble. It could be small stuff you have to bag up. It could be debris. There's just so many missing like holes. I was like, that just doesn't make sense. So I didn't do that. But I'm assuming they're not working with somebody now because that pile's been sitting there for almost a week getting rained on, and it doesn't look good. And I'm sure it's blocking at least one parking spot in their loading dock. So we're gonna go see what happens. Worst case, they say no, and we continue on with our day. I think the manager remembers me, at least to some degree, because I put yard signs up here every once in a while, and they stay up for like 6 to 8 months at a time. And like even the landscaping guys will go around it. So we're probably gonna go stick one up on that pole right there after we talk to them like tonight or something. And then maybe it'll give them a remembrance. So we'll grab our cards and go see if we can drop them off.
Clutter Reduction.
How are you?
That is my favorite thing in the world to do.
Is it? You should join the team.
Baby.
Yeah, we pass by here every day, and I noticed you have a big old pile of stuff.
Oh, and that's what I was just talking to him about on the phone.
It's been there for a couple of days.
Yeah, so that's what you do for a business?
We do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so something like that, especially with storage units, when it's obviously too much to fit back into the dumpster,
Well,
which then your staff has to do.
This dumpsters, they filled the dumpster and then of course put stuff on the outside of the dumpster.
Yeah, and not a little bit either.
Well,
That's a
obviously
good
not.
amount.
Because one person does it and then they all do it, and so it's
Perfect. Yeah, but no, you
that's
make
fine.
your call. We've done work a lot for customers here, even before the issue becomes an issue. So if you do need a new vendor or want some quotes, we'd be happy to provide one.
perfect.
So it's that pile right there. Alright, so we just went in and chatted real quick. I cut out anything that doesn't matter to anybody else or that could separate her for doing her job. Tanya, did you have any thoughts?
I mean, she was really welcoming, so that's nice. It's always great when people are very talkative, but it also makes it kind of difficult because you're trying to get a point across, or you're trying to get a specific understanding of what you're there for and what you'd like to provide. And so when the person you're talking to doing most of the talking, sometimes it makes it a little difficult. So I always say, try to make sure you get your point across. Even at the end of it, repeat the last note that you say to be something that you want them to take with them. So making sure they understand that you're looking to be a vendor or provide your business cards to give to customers. You'll be happy to provide a quote or a bid. Even if they have somebody, you know, if they are open to taking bids, you would love to enter your information in for that. So try to always end on that note. That way, hopefully it sticks in their mind versus just a friendly conversation with another customer, because they're talking all day, every day to people. So they're probably just used to hearing so many things a day. They're not going to remember exactly what you said to them. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Anything you got?
It's better than what I was thinking. See, for me, when I used to go do marketing on my own, if I walked into a public storage or Keep Smart like this, and I said, hey, my name is Chris, I do clutter reduction junk removal. You know, if you guys ever have this example that comes up, and I usually list off like 2 or 3 of the common ones for the different places that we're going to, you know, could I leave some cards behind, or do you guys work with anyone specifically? And if they're like really standoffish, or they seem like they have an attitude, or they just like, it just feels like they don't like me the moment I walk in the door because I'm interrupting their day, I immediately get turned off and demotivated, and I'm either super quick to be like, can I just leave cards, and I like basically just leave. You know, I don't sit there and try to force the subject because I don't want to be like even worse than they're already viewing me as. Or, you know, if I walk in and, you know, someone like her, she's like, clutter reduction, that's my life, you know, like that's already like, to me, that's already like a positive note. She's already understanding what we do. She's already like making a joke about it. And then she's very talkative. So to me, I'd see that whole encounter as a positive, and I wouldn't even think about the fact that I need to reiterate what I do at the end. So that's a good point on Tanya's end. I wouldn't even think about that. So that's why there's 2 of us now. You cover the tracks that I don't think about.
It's also good to know too, I think we have to get better at this. I kind of going in, we know what we're gonna say pretty much, and it's our like second language to speak, you know, junk removal and company and all that. But I think having kind of like a script, whether you chat GPT one or you look to other channels to kind of see what they say, I think it's important to really go in with a plan, and be comfortable, like depending on the situation, asking for the sale right away. Like, do you have any customers you know that needs removal right now? Is there anyone you can think of? Do you have time for us to give you like a bid today? Or who can we call to do that? So asking those like leading questions, trying to leave with like either sale or referral or a future possibility of a job is important when trying to take your time to market.
That makes sense. Because I was even thinking before we came here, like my goal was to try to say, well, I kind of wanted them to like bring it up because I didn't want to turn it into like a whole big situation, but I would have loved to be able to go into the gate and go look at it to get an idea of pricing, so I could write it down and say, you know, here's our information, here's my phone number, here's what I would charge to get rid of this. If you want to pass this off to whoever makes the decision, even if they may already have someone in mind, here's at least our price. And you know, if they want to call and try to negotiate that a little bit, we can. But at least have like, because now what they would have to do is even if they said, okay, yeah, let's go with these guys, they would still have to call us to come out and give a price. And then let's say we say, hey, it's going to be $600, you know, and they might be like, that's more than we were expecting to pay. Let's move on to the next person. And just like that, like they may never think to call us again. So I have done that before at like an apartment building where like we go in and like as we walk by, like you can see a bunch of trash by the dumpster and stuff. And like I've told the guy, I was like, hey, you know, if I take that right now, it's gonna be around $200. You know, it'll just be out of your way, and you guys can send me a check whenever, or take payment by card. I feel like sometimes it's helpful, and then sometimes like I don't want to like overstep boundaries or put a price out there too early without them knowing anything about us yet, because then maybe we just come off as high if they don't know what it typically goes for. Because for junk removal, a lot of people hear like a couple $100 for trash. That's crazy. That's how much we pay a month for the city. But
especially commercial businesses, they're always the cheapest.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is something that I actually wanted to do more of in the beginning of this year. Like I think we did it once, or maybe I did it on my own, where I drove around through the back of plazas looking for dumpsters that had like a mattress off to the side or a tire and a bunch of trash next to it, and then go into that store and say, hey, I took a shortcut around back and noticed you guys had a bunch of mattresses and trash. It looks like someone just dumped next to your or by your dumpster. I know the city isn't going to take that. Is that something you guys have a contact for to get picked up? If not, I can leave my card and, you know, we'll work with you the first couple of times just to get like our name in there. And then maybe if it becomes like a repetitive thing or it gets worse in the future, they can always call us back. But I do think that that's something that could be still worth doing, but maybe do it more as like as it comes. So like there's a Asian market we go to, and at the end of the parking lot it looked like someone like renovated a restaurant and just dumped everything in the parking lot. It It wasn't even by the dumpster, it was in the parking lot, like the table booths, high top tables, chairs. I think there was a couple of like cabinetry things, and they were literally just all over the parking lot. It was the stupidest thing ever. And I remember trying to take a picture of a sign for property management, and it led me to nowhere. But that would be something where if there was like a sign nearby, take a picture and call and say, hey, I was just shopping at so-and-so, notice you guys have a bunch of furniture and trash in the middle of your parking lot. You know, that's something that we can give a quote for if you're not already working with somebody. Or even if you are, you know, put in a bid like Tanya said. Still keep our eyes out for when things come up, and then we can go over and say, hey, if you don't have anybody for that, we can do it.
Call us.
Yeah. So that was it. I think it'd be a good way to do some marketing, but it's like not really marketing you have to plan. It's just when it comes up. Maybe just have a script ready and be diligent in your timing and try to close a deal on the spot. So that's it for me.
I'm just thinking there's a manager for a district manager for a bunch of the properties. One thing we haven't done that I think would be beneficial for us is to start getting more active on LinkedIn and looking for like the people who have titles of, you know, district manager, and reaching out to them and saying like, we spoke to whoever on site, you know, and we see that there's a possible need for a new vendor or this or that, and kind of start reaching out to them. But I think LinkedIn is going to be a way that a lot of junk removal companies don't utilize, including us, that we can start to utilize to kind of meet those people in the higher positions that make those decisions. So stay tuned to see how that goes.
Yeah, I actually just updated my LinkedIn for the first time in like 8 months.
I think mine still says I work at my old company, so.
Yeah, so trying to, I had one person, I mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, I don't really like posting on there, because to me it's more like almost like a resume in a way. And she said that there's no rules to what you can post on there. Treat it like your Facebook. Anything you post on, well, business-wise, anything you post on your Facebook that's business related, whether it's like an update or here's a new achievement we did or here's a job we did, share it to your LinkedIn, and then just don't put hashtags. And you can even tag like people you work with, who you have as contacts on there, and you can use that to basically, I guess what I was thinking was, okay, we just did a job for a guy from one of our senior groups that he goes in and does like estate settling. So he'll go in, he'll clean out the property, they'll do repairs, they'll help them get it on the market, and then he also does flipping and investing with residential houses. So we could say, you know, hey, we're Clutter Reduction Junk Removal, we just got done with this 2-day townhome clean out for so-and-so, and just put the title of what he is, so anyone else who sees that say, I do that, and that's a good idea, maybe I could use them for my junk removal. And then just specify what we removed, and you know, here's the aftermath. So I think that could be, this looks like another guy going to give a quote.
Is that what it is?
That's not junk removal. I think it is.
It looks like
shirt says pools.
contracting. Oh, pools. Okay.
But you never know. So yeah, I think it's not a bad idea to think of like keywords and do posts based on that for LinkedIn. But that is something that we're gonna try to start pushing for. But that is officially it. Bye.